Hello and welcome to the final video for this week, the first week back after our Easter holidays, and we've been looking at the Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler book called The Ugly Five. So let's just go through some of the answers that I would have expected on your worksheets. So our word of the week was revolting, and the meaning of that was horrible or disgusting. A synonym, I have put the word repulsive. An antonym, I have put pleasant. And my sentence, I've written, my brother's feet smell absolutely revolting. And they do. Some of you might know my brother. He came to the school to read his story about the sandy school on the beach. And I've spent quite a bit of time with him over this Easter holiday, and I can tell you that his feet do smell absolutely revolting. Okay, and then let's have a look at our vocab booster. We've got the word ungainly, which we said meant lacking in grace when moving, so that was kind of like the opposite of graceful. The word clan, that was a group, often a family with common characteristics, like we talked about Scottish clans, or clan could be, you know, maybe just even your group of friends. Appalled is to be filled with horror. Bristly is something covered in short, stiff hairs, so not like silky hairs, horrible sort of scratchy little hairs. And a specimen is something regarded as typical of the group, or it's like an example of something. So I hope you got those meanings there, and then let's see if we put them correctly into these sentences. So Miss Justine's pet Zeph was a fine specimen of a big dog. Miss Paula's husband grew a bristly beard when he didn't have to go to the office. I think quite a lot of your dads might be doing that as well, because they're not having to go into the office and see their colleagues every day at the moment. A lot of people are growing beards, and a lot of ladies as well need their hair doing, and I'm including myself in that as well. I've definitely become a little bit ungroomed at the moment when I can't get to the hairdresser. There was a revolting smell coming from Unit 8. Oh, now, what happened? Why was that? Well, Miss Amanda was appalled when she realised the smell in Unit 8 was coming from some old tuna sandwiches that Miss Paula had left there over the Easter holiday. Now, I didn't really do that in this school, but I did do that once in another place that I worked. I left some sandwiches out for a few weeks, and yeah, the smell was pretty revolting. And everybody was appalled. When the giraffe ran, its long legs made it look very ungainly. So that was our word that meant the opposite of, oh, I should have a full stop there, shouldn't I? The opposite of graceful. In Scotland, each clan had its own design of tartan to make kilts. So if you watched a movie, what's that one, the Disney one, I think it's called Brave, you'll see they wear tartan kilts, and each clan would have its own tartan. So if you saw somebody wearing a different tartan to you, you would know that they weren't in your clan, and maybe they would be your enemy. Okay, so dictionary skills. How did you get on with this? As I say, I didn't want a huge definition. You didn't need to write everything that was in the dictionary. Just a quick summary would be fine. So the word graceful, for example, is an adjective, and that means moving beautifully. So if something's moving beautifully, or you could say something like a gymnast might be very graceful because they have perfect form, or even a swimmer, you could say they do their strokes with precision. They're very graceful, so that's what that means, the opposite of ungainly. Frump, now this is a noun, and this is someone who dresses in a dull or old-fashioned way. So I include myself as a bit of a frump. I'm certainly not wearing the latest fashions, particularly at the moment during the lockdown, because I'm in England at the moment and I can't even hardly go out the house. So I'm definitely becoming a bit of a frump these days, wearing old, unfashionable clothes, old-fashioned, unfashionable, dull clothes. Preen, now this is not something I'm doing a lot of at the moment. This is to smarten yourself up. And birds will often preen their feathers. That means they kind of smooth them and make them all, you know, lie in the same direction. But if you're talking about a human preening themselves, they're smartening themselves up. They might be putting on makeup or really doing their hair very nicely, and that's a verb. And then ambled, also a verb, and this is to walk in a leisurely pace, at a leisurely pace. So if you're ambling along, you're not in a particular hurry, you're just taking it easy, walking at a leisurely pace. And finally, the word vile. This is also an adjective, and it means, like revolting, it means disgusting or unpleasant. So I hope you managed to find those words. Now, our rhyming words, there were a lot this week. So I've got the word 5, and it rhymes with alive, hive, survive, and arrive. It doesn't rhyme with fine, fire, or fried. You might think it's going to 5, fried. They're nearly the same, but not quite. It needs to have that V sound for it to rhyme. And the word food, it rhymes with rude, mood, prude, chewed, and dude. So look at all these different spellings. We've got a W-E-D there, a U-D-E, double O. They're not, you wouldn't necessarily know by looking at that, but it doesn't rhyme with good, mud, or feed. And then the word ignore. That rhymes with snore, bore, floor, roar, store. And this word gnaw, this is when an animal might chew on something and it looks like it's spelled incorrectly, but it actually starts with the letter G. Gnaw, it looks like, but it's pronounced gnaw. And ignore doesn't rhyme with ignorant or igloo. That's the start of those words are the same, not the end. And then the word roll, we actually had this one when we did the Giants loo roll. So I hope you got this one right. It doesn't rhyme with reel or rail, but it rhymes with loads of words and they're all spelt a bit differently. Look at this. It rhymes with troll, hole, coal, that kind of hole. That hole is like a hole in the ground if you're digging in the garden. That hole is like the whole pizza. That's like opposite of a slither, which we talked about when we had the book about Papa, Please Get the Moon for Me. Bowl, now look at that, it's got a W in and an L, but it still rhymes, doesn't look like it's going to. Soul, now that's your spirit or your sort of, your personality kind of thing is your soul. But this kind of soul is the bottom of your foot. And they're spelt very differently, but they both rhyme with roll. And so does the word foal, which is a baby horse. So, but look out for that because next week we're going to do more about baby animals. And then we've got the word bald. Now, that looks as if you might pronounce it bald, but you pronounce it bald. It doesn't rhyme with bed. It rhymes with appalled, called, hauled, and mauled. Now, it looks like it might rhyme with bold, but it doesn't. Bald and bold do not rhyme. It doesn't rhyme with build either. Can you see that? And it doesn't rhyme with fallen. So have a look at those. They are, some of those look the same with the double, some of them have a similarity, the double L's there, and they have the A-U-L, but the word bald doesn't have either of those patterns, and yet they still rhyme. And then we have the word zoo. Now, zoo doesn't rhyme with zoom, but it does rhyme with all these. It rhymes with 2, that's the number 2, few, blue, queue, dew, that's the wet stuff that you get on the grass first thing in the morning, who, moo, another word 2, that means well, like I'm going to the shops, and view. Now, they all have different spellings, but they all rhyme with zoo. So I hope you got those right. Now, the quiz time. I hope you had a look at those videos because they're really quite interesting. And you didn't need to write lots of description. I'm just going to give you a quick recap of what the answers will be, just to give you an idea, so I hope that you were on the right lines. So a shadow is the area blocking the light by an object. So if we've got the sun shining in the sky, if it's shining behind a tree, the tree will cast a shadow on the ground. That's the area that doesn't that the light doesn't shine through. So it's blocking the light. That's the area that the light doesn't get through, is the shadow. And if you have something opaque, like a tree that you can't see through, that will cast a strong shadow. If you have something translucent, like sometimes you might have like a plastic lunchbox, that will cast a small shadow, but it won't be very strong. And if you've got something translucent like a window, that might cast a very slight shadow, but most of the light goes through a transparent object, so it doesn't really cause much shadow. And quite a lot of light will go through a translucent object. So that was explained in one of those videos. Now, how do shadows change size and direction during the day? Now, this is, it was explained nicely on one of those videos. It's when the Earth is, we think the sun moves in the sky and it seems to us like the sun is moving, but actually it's the Earth that's moving. So the sun, we say it rises in the east. So when it's shining from the east, your shadow will go to the west. And as the sun goes higher, and so it's rising, so this is the east here. It looks like it's rising in the east. As I say, it's actually the Earth that's moving. So the sun rises, and when it's low down in the sky, it's casting a long shadow. So when it's on the east side and it's rising and it's low down in the sky, if you have an object here, it will cast a long shadow to the west. And then as it gets higher in the sky, the shadow gets shorter. And once you get to midday, there's hardly any shadow because the sun is shining directly overhead, so that hardly causes any shadow at all. And then when it starts setting in the west, it goes down this way and the shadows get longer, but the shadows this time are going towards the east. So one of those videos explained that very nicely. It's a little bit like the moon, phases of the moon kind of thing. It's to do with how the Earth's moving around the sun and the angle of the sun causes different shadows at different times of the day. So what does the African savanna look like? Well, it's grassland with occasional trees or bushes. It's certainly not the same as a jungle. We're going to be doing this book next week, and that's definitely a jungle with lots and lots of trees and leaves. Savanna land, the African plains there, more like this. They've got the odd trees that you can see, bushes, but it's mainly grassland. And the climate, well, normally in the African savanna, you just have a dry season and a rainy season. You don't have seasons like winter, summer, and spring and autumn. It's dry for about half the year, and then it rains for the other half of the year, basically. I think the rainy season is slightly longer, but there's a big marked contrast because when it's the dry season, all the riverbeds dry up, the lakes dry up, and then when it's the rainy season, it absolutely lashes it down. So there's two very distinct seasons, and that's what the weather is like, or the climate's like in that area. A herbivore, I'm sure most of you know this, it's an animal that only eats vegetation. And a predator would be an animal that eats other animals. So an example of a vegetarian animal would be, for example, a giraffe that just eats the leaves off the trees. But then a lion is a predator. The lion would hunt down and eat the giraffe. The shy 5 animals come out at night. What do we call those? We call them nocturnal if something comes out at night. Okay, I better be quick because I don't want this video to go too long, or I go get it on YouTube. Here are the answers to the word search. You've got some going this way, like appalled, frump, vile, bristle, bristly, clan. They all go vertically. Diagonally, we've got quite a lot. We've got ungainly, specimen, grotty, ambled, shadow, and 5. And then horizontally, we've got preen, Africa, and ugly. I think that was all of them. And then, what have we got? I think that might be all. Oh, the maze. I found this quite tricky, actually. I hope you managed to find this. You had to go, I started going that way, and I thought, oh, no, that's not going to work. You have to go up, around this way, down, up, around, up, and around, and up and down. There may be another way through it, but that was the way I found. And so, yeah, that was it. I'm looking forward to seeing your worksheets. So, that was it for this week. And next week we are going to do this lovely story of Monkey Puzzle. So if you've got this book at home, maybe you could have a look at it before next week so that you're a big expert and a big expert detective when we come to read it. And I will put all this on to the Google Classroom. Yeah, any questions, just drop me a line. Okay, thank you, bye.